Thank you, Mr. President. Again, good afternoon, colleagues. I rise to present Resolution SCR 107 that recognizes February 2024 as Black History Month and the monumental impact that Black Americans have made and continue to make in this country and in this great state. Black History Month is a celebration of the rich heritage and indomitable spirit of Black Americans and a recognition of our profound contributions to building this country as leaders among nations and the largest economy in the world. Beginning in 1619, when 55 million African men, women, and children were first brought to America, not as immigrants, but as slaves, against their will, with the majority losing their lives across the gruesome Middle Passage. The free labor of enslaved Black Americans was fundamental to this country, contributing to what scholars estimate to be valued at more than $20 trillion. But there is no price tag for the generational freedom movement contributions that have been led by Black people to this country throughout centuries. Our blood, sweat, and tears from movements of emancipation by great leaders as Frederick Douglass, to the civil rights movement of A. Philip Randolph, Dr. King, to the Black Power movement of Malcolm X and Angela Davis, to the election of President Barack Obama and the resurgence of Black mass movements of Black Lives Matter. Black communities continue to remind California and America of our constitutional ideals, the true meaning of life, liberty, and justice for all. I wouldn't want to imagine America without these moral vanguards, without good American allies standing with Black Americans, working to disrupt bigotry, hatred, and greed. We can only imagine what our country could have been had all Black people been free from the beginning, been treated as full human beings with full citizenship in this state and in this country. But instead, we continue to manage the crisis of discrimination and oppression, a system soaked in the bloods of slaves that continues to produce disparate outcomes for Black families in the areas of income, housing, homelessness, maternal health, food access, education, and life expectancy. The ultimate wealth gap. These are all results of 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, 60 years of separate but equal, 35 years of racist housing policies, and an enduring state violence at the hands of police. Still, Black people have continued to persevere in this country, but the robustness of Black resilience embodied in the brilliance of Black music and food and art and language and dress and dance and laughter, the Black joy, it's been openly embraced by all Americans and exported around the world. But that celebration of Black culture does not repair the harm and can never be mistaken for the restitution and for equality. Our rich culture is a byproduct of collective pain, produced from generations of Black people who were enslaved longer than we have been free in this country. Black History Month is also a time to acknowledge the scores of Black American pioneers, of course, whose brilliant inventions and innovations designed everything from the traffic signal to the cell phone to the blood plasma bags, and the gratitude of Henrietta Lacks, the mother of 5 whose cervical cancer cells were harvested as the source of numerous medical breakthroughs, saving countless lives worldwide. During Black History Month, we must acknowledge and learn from our past in order to work towards shaping a more equitable and inclusive California for all. And 2024, colleagues, marks California's newest chapter. We will make Black history with the completion of our Reparation Task Force 1,100-page report, which I know you all have received, and I hope that you all are working your way through. And I know my colleagues are going to be working with all of you to ensure that there are opportunities for education and understanding and hands-on learning about the history of slavery and its impact on California. In fact, the Assembly acknowledged the report today, and we did too in Judiciary, in the form of an acknowledgement, and it did pass the Assembly floor today, and we will hear that acknowledgement on Thursday. I want to close by saying that Ta-Nehisi Coates, a great writer, wrote, "Until we reconcile with our compounding moral debts, America will never be whole." And most Californians agree that the impact of slavery continues to be felt today and that something must be done. And that's where we come in, creating smart policies to increase home ownership, reduce poverty, improve health, optimize educational opportunities, and support Black businesses as key parts of creating a better future, not just for Black people, but for all of us. Only then will California lead the way to finally healing the soul of this nation. Reparations is an acknowledgement of the social and economic disparities that persist due to centuries of slavery and segregation and systemic racism. These systems have created this wealth gap, which we spoke about earlier. And just like any unchecked disease, this festering inequality has now begun to move beyond the red-lined Black neighborhoods. It's beginning to weaken all of our communities because we have allowed it to persist for so long. As it stands now, far too many Black families are drowning in crisis-level disparities. We must deal with the source of this inequality and disparity to begin closing these gaps, the wealth gap. And what wealth is, it's not assets and debts. It's a whole accumulation of experience of life that so many Black families never got to experience. Fair access to family-sustaining employment, healthcare, food, water, and housing and education. When families are denied opportunities and essential needs for 400 years, equaling dozens of generations, we must act. And that's why today's resolution is so poignant and significant. Because through our collective work on reparations, we will face the truth about the racial wealth gap and build a stronger future for California. And I'll close with James Baldwin, one of my favorite writers. We cannot fix what we will not face. As we commemorate Black History Month, let us be called to action to ensure that enormous contributions of Black Americans and the ugly institutional injustices of slavery that still persist be our inspiration and motivation to strengthen our backs, to do the courageous works it takes to bring California to higher ground this year and for many years to the future. And thank you. I respectfully call for your aye vote.